All right, so today we're going to talk about the top 5 misconceptions about the LSAT. So the LSAT's a crucial step for aspiring law students, but it's also surrounded by numerous myths and misconceptions. I'm John McCarty, founder of Odyssey Test Prep. Let's go. So misconception number 5, that LSAT scores are the sole factor in law school admissions. While your LSAT score is one of the, if not the biggest factor in your admissions decision, it's not the only factor. So if you're a few years out from applying to law school, you may want to start considering what those other factors are and how you can best be prepared. Having a really stellar resume, having some experience in the legal field, your GPA, I mean, that's the big second factor. Making sure you're going to be able to get really good letters of recommendation from professors who know you really well. Crafting your personal statement, demonstrating leadership skills, communication skills, some of those other skills that law schools are looking for. So think about how you're going to create this holistic package for when you present yourself to the admissions committee. That LSAT score is very important, and when it comes time, you better give it your all. But until then, start to consider some of the other things that you want to put in place to make sure that you have the best application possible. So myth number 4, that you must finish every LSAT section to score well. Well, for some people, that is not going to be the best strategy. Obviously, we want you to score as high as you possibly can, and to get a perfect score, you gotta come pretty close to finishing everything, if not finish everything. You do have a little bit of wiggle room there at the top end of the scale by a question or two, but so even to get a perfect 180, I guess you don't need to finish every section. Now, most people who score at the very, very high ends probably will. But for people who are maybe targeting maybe a 160 or 165, even some people targeting a 170, depending on where their skill sets lie, may not end up finishing every single question in the entirety of the section. Now, one of the biggest mistakes that I see people make is they go too quickly to timing drills. They want to be fast. They want to finish. That is a goal for most people. But if you try to start too soon, you may find that you go faster then you're able to actually learn from the material that you're going through. And then you're doing tons of quantity, no quality, and you find that you hit this plateau pretty early. If you're only finishing, let's say 20 questions per section, maybe your goal should be 21 on the next one. If you're only finishing 15 questions, maybe your goal should be to stop timing and go back and get back into the fundamentals, learn the material deeper. The better you know anything, the faster you'll be able to perform at it. That goes for any skill in life. So if you find that you're really far off in your timing, you need to build your skills first before you start to try and go really, really fast. The goal is to finish each section, but if you don't quite get there, know that you can still score very, very well. Myth number 3, LSAT prep courses are a waste of money or a waste of time. There's a lot of people's advice is grab a few books, get down into them, study really hard, and then see, how you score a few months later on the actual exam. Do a bunch of practice tests, and, you can go through this journey on your own. While that is possible, if you know that you are a very disciplined individual, you do not lack for self-motivation, you have something that's going to drive you for months and months of studying, that you're going to be able to do this day in and day out on your own and take that path, a lot of people can do it. In fact, that's the way that I did it when I was studying, but it's a hard road for most people. Now, where most people find success is adding in a support system. In fact, pretty smart idea to do. A lot of people will like to go to the classes because you get that regularity. You're meeting every single week. That keeps you focused on the task at hand. You've got some other people that you're meeting with. There's a little bit of accountability built in there too. You're going to see your instructor. They may ask you some questions about, hey, how was the homework? How'd you do on this question? You want to be able to show them that you did the work and that you're keeping up with the class. Also, you've got some camaraderie there, right? There's other people in the class who are going through what you're going through. You can form study groups with some of the people that you click with. It can be a really positive experience in that accountability, really keeping things sustained over the course of months and months, that motivation, trying to keep yourself on track. Prep courses absolutely can be beneficial to people who find that they want to put around them more of a support system. The number 2 myth is that the LSAT is just all about innate intelligence, right? So smart people are going to score great. People who maybe not as inclined to this kind of thinking or this kind of testing aren't going to score as well. That is absolutely a myth. In fact, it's my personal belief everybody, with the exception of people where it's mathematically impossible, can increase their score about 20 points from their raw diagnostics. So even if you're really smart and you can walk in blind and score a 160, that's a pretty good starting score. It's higher than what my starting score was. You may be able to score decent, but you certainly could have scored better if you would have put in the prep to get there. And remember, you're competing against everybody who's intelligent, right? There's not a person taking this test that isn't already extremely intelligent. They have or are finishing their 4-year degree. They've got a GPA that they think is going to be competitive to get them into law school. So they did pretty well in that undergrad. And now they're putting forth an effort to take this test. Because remember, when you take it on test day, you're competing against everybody who's prepped for 3 to 6 months. Some people have done it for a year. The success on this test is a little bit of a balance of innate intelligence, right? If you start at a 125, your ceiling may be a little bit lower than someone who starts at a 165. But it's also really massively influenced by how hard you're willing to work, how smart you're willing to work, and going through the process of increasing your score, increasing the way that you think, thinking more logically, and building the skills that are going to be super useful to you in law school and in the practice of law beyond that. If you get that first practice test score back and you're not happy about it, that's okay. Very few people are happy about their first practice test score, but know that working hard is going to get you significantly higher than where you started. Add 20 points to that score and see if you might be happy there. If you think you need 30 points, then know that your road is going to be a little bit longer, but it's certainly doable. We've seen people go up over 30 points. It's definitely a doable thing. You just really have to put in the paces. And I think that's part of why the LSAT is indicative of how you're going to do in that first year in law school, because that first year, it's not 100% like who's the smartest person in the room. Very few things are that, right? I mean, everyone here is brilliant, right? We all got here, but who's going to work really, really hard and really show the best of themselves? That is something that the LSAT definitely wants to test. Where's that intelligence level? And then how hard are you willing to work to maximize your specific skill set and your overall potential? So the next myth that I see, the top myth, is that if you just take every single practice test that's ever been released for the LSAT, that you'll get a high score. There's a place for practice tests, a very crucial place for practice tests. Taking one at the beginning to see kind of what is this whole thing about, get a feel for it, get a sense of the timing, kind of zoom out and look at the LSAT from like 30,000 feet and see, all right, I kind of see what this animal is, and I'm going to try and figure out the best way to attack it. As you're approaching the exam, you want to be getting into that test day rhythm. You want to be getting your timing dialed in. You want to feel like you're really connecting with the exam, cutting seconds, every place that you can cut seconds without losing any accuracy. But there's a long period in between where you want to be drilling down on very specific concepts, on very specific question type, and learning those things, learning them very, very well, and then seeing how you do with just look at must be true questions. And if I do a bunch of those in a row, then I can start to see the patterns that emerge from must be true questions. Then what happens when I start to see those within the context of a logical reasoning section? Okay, now I'm switching. I just did a strength and now I'm doing a must be true. Can I click into that mode after being in a different mode? So then that's a skill that you have to work on by doing some section work. And then in the context of the full exam, you just got done doing reading comprehension. You're feeling like mentally fatigued. Bang, right out of the gate, here's a must be true. And you got to be able to handle that too. So you want to take it in incremental steps. I don't think you need to do nearly 100 practice. Some people will try to do them twice, which I think is reaching a point of diminishing returns. There's better ways to find that path to the goal score that you're looking for without putting yourself through so much, tons and tons of practice tests. Find some good materials, find a good coach, learn really what's going to be on the test. How do you attack it? Break it down into smaller pieces and then put all those pieces back together and start taking your practice tests. For most people, if you take if you take 20, 25 practice tests during the duration of your studying, that's probably sufficient for most people. Some people will want to take more if they want to reach a higher increase or if they're really struggling with certain sections. But in my opinion, you need to take all 80 as fully timed, 90 practice tests as fully timed tests where that's your study plan. I'm just going to take every test and I'm going to hope for the best. So those are my top 5 myths. Let me know what you guys think. If there's some other things that you've heard that you're wondering, like, is this good advice? Is this a myth? Is this something I should be taking seriously? And leave something in the comments. Let us know what you think. Thanks so much.